Over the past couple of seasons, I've started to notice fish become tougher and tougher to get to bite. Whether I'm largemouth fishing or smallmouth fishing, these fish are just getting a lot more pressure and they're a lot harder to trick. Guys are becoming a lot more dialed into what these fish are doing, being very intentional with their approaches, and you've seen it on the national level tours as well as on, I'm sure, your bodies of water. These fish are just a lot harder to trick. One of the biggest keys that I've started to do is downsizing my approaches, going with more finesse, stealthy style approaches, longer rods, lighter line, make longer casts, and smaller baits in an attempt to try and trick more fish. And for me, it's been a really, really key player over the past couple of seasons. Now, one of the biggest baits that you guys have seen me throw has been that Beast Coast OW Sniper. It's a compact finesse jig with no weed guard, but it falls fast, has a small profile, and it gets a lot of bites. Well, in today's video, I'm going to unbox some brand new baits from Great Lakes Finesse. These are baits and a company that I've used over the past couple of seasons with a lot of success, whether it's their sneaky underspin, which is a compact underspin with a little 2 to 3 inch bait on the back of it. These really finesse approaches have provided me a lot of success over the past couple of seasons. So I want to show you guys some brand new baits they're coming out with and that I picked up to help me prepare for the 2024 season. Now, if you guys want to get 15% off your Great Lakes Finesse order, you can go down to lurenet.com and use the code BENFISH to get 15% off all the products off of LureNet. It doesn't have to be limited to Great Lakes Finesse. Go down, lurenet.com, use the code BENFISH to save 15% off of your entire order. So the first bait that I want to talk to you guys about is one that I've probably had the most success with in the Great Lakes Finesse lineup, and that is the snack craw. Now, as I mentioned, that Beast Coast OW Sniper jig has been really, really successful for me. That was kind of my introduction, the gateway into like this finesse style of fishing. Now, the snack craw is my go-to trailer on that bait. The snack craw for me is like the perfect downsized presentation for a craw imitation on the back of that small finesse jig, but it can also be rigged really effectively on like a small 1/8 ounce or 3/16 ounce ball head. Now, what Great Lakes Finesse with came out this year are some brand new colorways in this bait. And the first one that I'm probably the most excited about is this green pumpkin and orange belly. Now, what I really like about this bait is that orange belly is more of like a burnt orange color. It's not like a super orange. It's just like a burnt orange. Looks really natural. Now, for me, this is going to be a really key player in the early season and late in the fall. But that orange belly, especially in the early season cold water, is a phenomenal color. And it just helps trigger fish that are otherwise pretty wary to bite. I also think in that dirtier water, it helps it stand out a little bit more, kind of draws fish to it and calls them in. So I'm really, really excited about that green pumpkin orange belly snack craw. Of the baits, this is one that I am super excited just to kind of get my hands on and play with. It's one that I obviously have a bunch of in the boat, but this green pumpkin orange belly is something I'm very excited to play with this year. Now, this next one is, for me, a smallmouth staple color. Like, I don't know why they didn't have this in the original iteration of the snack craw, but it is a green pumpkin purple. Now, this green pumpkin purple actually has a little bit of gold flake in it, and for me, that is like a smallmouth staple color. Green pumpkin purple gold flake is like a key color you have to have if you're smallmouth fishing. Now, it imitates gobies really effectively as well as a bunch of other bait fish, so I can also see this playing around some largemouth. Anytime they're on like a small craw or a small bait, this is going to be a key player. I love actually flipping a finesse jig around for largemouth as well. It's something I did a little bit last season. So this green pumpkin purple is going to be a really, really big player in my arsenal. And then the last colorway is a black and blue. So for me, I don't know how much this one's going to play. I fish the matte black a decent bit, but anytime you want a bait with a little bit more flash, this black and blue is going to be a really cool color. Or if the water gets off colored on you, it can just add a little bit something different to your bait than just that standard black color on the back of whether a ball head or a finesse jig. So this next bait is one that I'm very, very excited to fish, and it's a brand new bait shape for Great Lakes Finesse. Like, it's not just an iteration on a bait they've already created. And it's one that I'm really excited to try and figure out where it fits in my arsenal. So when Dan called me and told me that they were coming out with some new baits for Great Lakes Finesse, this is the one that I was originally the least excited for and probably am now the most excited to understand where it fits in, and that is a hellgramite. The amount of times that guys have commented on my videos and tell me I need to fish a hellgramite for smallmouth is absolutely insane. But Great Lakes Finesse came out with a brand new hellgramite shape. It's 2.4 inches long and have a variety of different colors. The one that I'm most excited for is called Brown Pumpkin Special, and that's what I'm showing you guys here. It's basically a brown green pumpkin, and then has a little bit of green flake, some copper flake, and it's just a really, really unique color, just like super, super natural. The other one that they told me I need to play with this season is a straight matte black hellgramite. So one of the cool things about Great Lakes Finesse is most of their colors have a matted finish to them. So like if you guys look at this brown pumpkin, it is a matte style finish, and the black is the same way. One of the biggest keys, I think, when you're fishing finesse baits is that matte finish. A lot of guys overlook this, but anytime you're fishing in clean water situations, like a crawfish isn't going to be glossy and shiny. A goby definitely isn't going to be glossy and shiny. So taking the finish off of your bait and having a matte finish profile is really, really important. Now, this is something I've done for years. When I'm tube fishing, I'll take a bait, rub it into the carpet to take the finish off that. I've done it with drop shot baits before. It's really effective when you're fishing a stick worm. But taking that bait and making it matte finish is one of the cool things that Great Lakes Finesse does right out of the package. Now, with these hellgramites, this is something I'm super interested to play around with and start to understand where it fits into my arsenal. So for me, this is going to be a bait that I'm going to play with quite a bit this season. Now, the way that I'm going to rig this thing is actually probably going to be on a ball head. So I did pick up some of the Great Lakes Finesse stealth heads. And what these are is basically just a small ball head, but they actually have matte finish paint on them. So it is an 1/8 ounce ball head, and then that is matte black paint. They have matte brown, they have matte green pumpkin, and it pairs up really nicely with all of their different shapes. So according to Dan, all you do is take that bait and you rig it up on their stealth ball head, which is an 1/8 ounce, and you drag this thing around. You make a long cast, you bomb it out there, and you just drag it around, and it catches fish. So I'm actually going to rig this up. I have a trip planned up north later this week, and with this warm temperature, with this warm front coming in, high sun, low wind, I actually expect some of these fish to be pushed up on shallow flats and be able to semi-sight fish them. So this is going to be a bait that I'm going to get to play with, kind of see the action of it, and it has a really narrow profile, so I expect this bait to kind of have a glide on the fall. I'm actually really, really excited to fish this hellgramite pretty much all season long. Another real key way that Dan told me to fish this thing is on a drop shot. Now, for me, a drop shot doesn't play this early in the year, but this is going to be a bait that gets a lot of work for me this season. Now, moving to another bait that's actually been in the Great Lakes Finesse arsenal, I picked up some of these drop minnows. So I've had drop minnows before. I've fished them on the back of that sneaky underspin. But this color here, this is the spicy melon color. If you guys watch my live stream, Dan ranted and raved about this bait. And there wasn't just Dan, it was people in the comments. Like, this, I guess, is a sneaky color bait. So this is a bait that I'm very, very excited to try. Really, really unique. It's like a see-through green with a little bit of silver or gold flake in the bait. And I guess this is like a deadly color. So I picked up 3 or 4 packs of this. I'm going to try it out this year. Give it a shot around some of these smallmouth that are really, really tough to catch. Because I guess this is a deal. I don't know why. I don't know how. It doesn't look very good. But if they tell me to try it, I'm going to give it a shot. It's the drop minnow in the spicy melon color. We're going to fish this bait around this spring on a drop shot when these fish are pushing up shallow, kind of getting on that drop shot bite. Water temp above 55 degrees. I'm going to pick up this bait right here and just see what it does. See how these fish react. Do they come over to it? Is it as effective on my northern bodies of water as it is over on Lake Ontario and over in the eastern part of the country? And then probably one of the most hyped baits that I've seen in the past couple of years, and not just from Great Lakes Finesse, like across the industry, this thing has gotten an incredible amount of hype, and I think it's warranted, is this little Juvie craw. This craw is so insanely unique. It is a tube style bait, but it looks like a little crawfish. Okay, so it's hollowed out and it looks like a little craw. So you basically have the tentacles on top and the 2 little claws. And what makes this bait look so good is the underwater footage of this thing actually swimming. So yeah, it looks good. I'm sure dragged on the bottom like a tube, but a lot of tubes look good dragged on the bottom. When they swam this thing, the claws like undulate and move underwater. I'm very interested. I really like fishing a mini tube. I'm not a huge tube fisherman when it comes to fishing like a regular size full body tube, but as a mini tube, this is one that I'm really, really interested in throwing. And this is a color that I'm very excited to throw. This is called Motor Oil. Brand new to the lineup. It's like an amber, iridescent, translucent style finish with like a green hue to it. This really, really matches, especially in our clear bodies of water, that rusty craw style color. It has like a blue, greenish hue, that amber to it. It's going to be a really, really effective color, I think, especially on some of those northern bodies of water with the rusty crayfish. Then they also have just your straight green pumpkin, which is like a staple tube color. Then I picked up some green pumpkin with watermelon. So there's a couple lakes that we fish where that chartreuse is really, really important. And this green pumpkin watermelon essentially has that chartreuse belly on it. And I think this is going to be a big player for me. You guys are going to see this bait over the next handful of weeks, especially as spring starts to push in here. I think I'm going to catch a lot of fish on that lake where that chartreuse is really, really key. This could also be a great bed fishing bait. Maybe not for you to see quite as well, but that chartreuse just does something to bed fish. When they see that flash of that belly, I think this could be a big player for guys. And then obviously a green pumpkin purple Juvie craw. Like I mentioned before, a green pumpkin purple with a little bit of gold flake is just such a deadly color. And this bait looks just so good. So this is going to be a player anytime that you're smallmouth fishing, that green pumpkin purple color. One of the cool things too about this bait is it is a very finesse presentation. So they actually paired this bait to fit with their Finesse tube hook, but their tube hook is a little bit different than most. This thing, let me show you guys. This tube hook that they created has a very unique profile. So it's like a flattened bottom, then sort of like a tapered head, and where that hook comes out, it's going to basically not collect any grass. Let me push one in the tube and I'll show you guys what I mean. So when you take and you rig that bait, that Juvie craw, with their tube hook, it comes right out of the nose of the bait, and then the hook actually sits right in between those two tentacles. So it rigs perfectly flat, and then the flattened bottom of that tube and the flattened bottom of that tube head is going to keep this bait sitting upright at all times. Like, it's not going to roll over on you. I'm really interested to try this bait. Obviously, I've talked about the hellgramite quite a bit, but this Juvie craw is just like a new take on a tube, and there haven't really been any modifications or upgrades on a tube. A Finesse tube is a big deal for me, especially in the spring. This is a bait that I expect to have rigged up on that first trip out. So that's really it. Those are the baits that I picked up to hopefully help me have success this season. Now, they also came out with a couple of other baits. They have a new Finesse swim bait head. It's basically an 1/8 or 3/16 of an ounce. It's their sneaky underspin without the blade. So they have that, and then they have a hanging head as well, which is obviously meant for that new Damiki rigging moping technique, hanging below the boat. You know, cast it out, have the bait hanging straight off the back. But for me, the baits that I showed you guys in today's video are the one that I am the most excited for. The Juvie craw is going to be a big player for me. The hellgramite's going to be a big player. And then obviously you guys see me fish the snack craw all the time. I can't wait to get out and fish these baits. They look incredible. I'm very confident in the Great Lakes Finesse lineup. So it's kind of how I know, or at least why I think that these are going to become big players for me as well. So if you guys enjoyed this video, if you guys enjoyed checking out these baits, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you guys enjoyed down in the comment section down below. And be sure to stay tuned for more videos coming out, especially as temperatures start warming up. I've been out on the water probably 2 times, maybe 3 times already this spring. Fishing's been tough. It's still March. I have to keep reminding myself of that. It's cold. Water temps are cold. Fish are hard to come by, but they're starting to bite. So stay tuned for more videos coming very soon. Thank you guys so much. Take care. Tight lines. God bless. Pursue your passion.